All right, welcome back. Let's get into this. All right, so this is a passage, a story from Mark 5, 1 to 20. And the title of my Bible says, Jesus heals a demon-possessed man. And this is what it says. So it's 20 verses, so it's a little bit longer, but there's really a lot that goes into this. And so I want you to pay attention to it and see if you can pick out some of the fun things that happen. All right. So I don't know if you remember, to set this up, the prior miracle that we talked about before Palm Sunday, before Easter, was Jesus calming the sea on the Sea of Galilee. So that's a story that we've heard many, many times. So this is happening just after he heals, or he heals the sea. He calms the sea. All right. So it says, so they arrived on the other side of the lake, in the region of Gerasenes. I probably said that wrong, so I apologize. When Jesus climbed out of the boat, a man possessed by an evil spirit came out from a cemetery to meet him. This man lived among the burial caves and could no longer be restrained, even with a chain. Whenever he was put into chains and shackles, as he often was, he snapped the chains from his wrist and smashed the shackles. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Day and night he wandered among the burial caves and in the hills, howling and cutting himself with sharp stones. When Jesus was still some distance away, the man saw him, ran to meet him, and bowed low before him. With a shriek, he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had already said to the spirit, "Come out of the man, you evil spirit." Then Jesus demanded, "What is your name?" And he replied, "My name is Legion, because there are many of us inside this man." Then the evil spirits begged him again and again not to send them to some distant place. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on a hillside nearby. "Send us into those pigs," the spirits begged. "Let us enter them." So Jesus gave them permission. The evil spirits came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the entire herd of 2,000 pigs plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. The herdsmen fled to the nearby town and the surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what had happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons. He was sitting there fully clothed and perfectly sane, and they were all afraid. Then those who had seen what happened told the others about the demon-possessed man and the pigs, and the crowd began pleading with Jesus to go away and leave them alone. As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. But Jesus said, "No, go home to your family and tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how merciful he has been." So the man started off to visit the 10 towns of that region and began to proclaim the great things Jesus had done for him, and everyone was amazed at what he told them. There's a lot going on in that passage, and the more that I read it, the more that I love it. I get so excited about it. Before I get into the story, I teased you a little bit with, this has a significant place in my life, I guess. So when I was in college, I look back on this now and I think how silly and immature I was. Anyway, when I was in college, there was, we had intramural volleyball. So volleyball, we had co-ed intramural volleyball. So volleyball teams where guys and girls would play against each other, and it was just our college students playing against each other. And so I had a big enough group of friends at the time that we had to have two teams. And so there was one team that was formed, and it was kind of formed without the rest of us. And so I felt like we were kind of left out a little bit. So they named the name of that team was Mark 5:11, which is the verse where it says a large herd of pigs were gathering on a nearby hillside. So that was the team name was this passage. A large herd of pigs were gathering on a nearby hillside. And so I thought, well, they've got a Bible verse, so I'm going to have a Bible verse. And which one? Now I'm going to have to remember which one I picked. But it was a passage in James, and it was just as silly. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but when I hear that verse, that's the entire verse. I'll read it in the version that I just read. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on a hillside nearby. That's Mark 5:11. There's nothing else with it. There's nothing spiritual about it. There's nothing. You're not going to gain salvation by knowing that verse. It's just a silly verse. So that's my angle, I guess you will, with the story. But anyway, let's get into it. Now that I've wasted a couple minutes of your time with that, let's move on. So like I said, there's a lot going on in this passage. So Jesus is coming off calming the storm in the Sea of Galilee, getting off the boat, and there's this man that comes out of the cemetery. I don't know how far away the cemetery was, but close enough that he could see Jesus coming out of the boat. So he comes up, and we get a picture of this man. It talks about how he lived among the burial caves. So he was probably a homeless man. He didn't have a place to go. So he lived among the burial caves, could no longer be restrained even with a chain. And this would have been a common practice back then, not so much today, but a common practice that if someone were just unconsolable, meaning that there was just no way to calm somebody down. They were just so angry, so full of rage that they would basically attach a shackle like you would see in a jail, in old jails. The little thing around the foot that grips your foot, and it's got the chain on the end and it goes into the wall. They would attach that to this man, but he couldn't be constrained by that. He couldn't be restrained by that because he was so strong, because the demons inside of him were so strong. He was so full of rage and anger that he would just kind of Incredible Hulk bust them open, and nothing could contain him. So that's this. We get this picture from these first couple of verses about this man. Sounds like a pretty scary dude, if you ask me. Just constantly angry, constantly. If you've seen movies about the Incredible Hulk, or even the TV show way back when, that's the kind of picture I get about this man, is that he's just angry and he's strong. He's full of rage. Probably not green skinned, but you get the idea, right? So it talks about how day and night he wandered. He was just constantly wandering. So, but then it says this: when Jesus was still some distance away. So he was far enough away that he could see him, or close enough away that he could see him, but far enough that he had to get up and move. So this man then comes up to Jesus and says this: "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In the name of God, I beg you, don't torture me." So this is not the man speaking. These are the demons. This is the demon inside of this man speaking for this man. So I find it interesting that the man would walk over to Jesus, this demon-possessed man, who seemed, for all that we know, was constantly possessed. Like there was no relief. That's as far as we understand. That's constantly how he was. So the demon was controlling him. It was doing everything for him, speaking, all of that stuff. So the demon caused the man to walk over to Jesus, knowing full well who Jesus is. The demon knew this because they said, Jesus, Son of the Most High God. Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I don't think that Jesus was deliberately coming to meet this man. There's nothing in this passage that would tell us that. But as a demon, demons are naturally afraid of God, afraid of Jesus, because God and Jesus are way more powerful than a demon. So they are, this demon is very concerned about their fate, or his fate. So it says that Jesus had already said to the spirit, come out of the man, you evil spirit. And then Jesus asked, what is your name? And the demon says, Legion, because there are many of us. So we get further proof here that there were many demons living inside of this man, which would probably explain the rage and the anger and the strength that was associated with breaking out of the chains and the shackles and all that stuff. So the evil spirits, kind of knowing what was going to come, they were smart enough to know that they were in trouble. Like this was not good, that Jesus, the Son of God, was here and he was talking to us. Like this can't end well. And they were right. So then the evil spirits begged Jesus to not send them to a faraway place. Like they didn't want to go anywhere. They were afraid of traveling for some reason. I don't know, but they didn't want to go anywhere else, probably because they were comfortable. Maybe they thought Jesus was going to send them into another person so that they could torment that person, which obviously we know that didn't happen. Then we have the herd of pigs. So there's these pigs gathering on a hillside, minding their own business, doing whatever they're doing. And the spirits ask Jesus to send them into the pigs, thinking, hey, we'll live in the pigs and we'll be okay. Not knowing or anticipating what was going to happen, probably. So they asked Jesus to send them into the pigs, and he says, hey, okay, fine with me. So he sends them into the pigs, and the pigs being possessed into 2,000 pigs. So there were enough demons. I guess I would think of it as there were 2,000 demons living inside this man, because they went into a herd of 2,000 pigs, that each demon went into a pig. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's kind of how I would see it. So, but all of these demons went into these 2,000 pigs, and the moment that they enter the pigs, those pigs go crazy. I mean, you can about imagine when a pig gets scared. If you've seen pigs, whether they, you try to grab a pig, you try and wrestle a pig, they're not gonna let you do it. They squeal, they run around, they get so scared. I imagine that's what these pigs were doing too. So they get so scared that it says that they plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned in the water. So they basically jumped off the edge of a cliff into the water and died. Like that was their relief, that these pigs were so possessed, were so consumed by these demons, that the only way that they could think to get rid of that was to jump into the lake and die and drown. That just shows you how crazy, bonkers, and messed up this man was because of these demons. So now, of course, these pigs, 2,000 pigs, that's gonna, you see 2,000 pigs running around, that's gonna attract a crowd probably. So there's people that have seen this, and people start talking, they start thinking, oh wow, look at that, that was amazing. That's how could that happen? So then the people around basically went from town to town and started talking about it. People started coming. They wanted to see this man for themselves. They wanted to, they had to see it to believe it. Much like we talked about Thomas last week for Easter, they had to see it. They had to see this man for themselves because they probably would have known who he was. So they come and they see him, and instantly they are afraid. Not for the man. They're not afraid of the man. They're afraid of Jesus. Because they don't understand. They have no idea the kind of power that he has. And I imagine, I guess I don't know why I'm on the superhero kick today, but if you've seen superhero movies, when superheroes get their powers and they really start to understand it, I think of like Spider-Man, and how in Spider-Man, when he gets bit by the spider, starts to become Spider-Man and starts to get stronger. His eyesight gets better, can start to shoot things out of his, the webs out of his wrist, and doesn't really quite understand what he's capable of doing. And the people around him don't understand that either, because it's all brand new. It's all such a new thing. So they're more afraid of what Spider-Man can do than thankful or excited. And that's the case here with Jesus too. They're more afraid of what he can do because they don't understand. They don't know the kind of power and the kind of just control over everything that he has. They don't even know that he's necessarily a good guy at this point, because they don't understand. They're not at a point in the story where they understand what's going on. It's all brand new. It's all very confusing to them. So they're begging Jesus to go away. I find that funny almost, that here Jesus is the Son of God, God in the flesh himself. He's just done this amazing, wonderful, miraculous thing, and people are begging him to go away. They're so scared of what could happen that they don't want him to be around anymore. So they beg him to go away. So he does. He gets back on the boat, and he's going to go off to his next destination, do his next miracle. But the man wants to come along with him, but Jesus says, no, go home to your family, tell your family all that I've done for you, and spread the word. And this is the first example with our miracles where we have Jesus saying it's okay to tell people. In other miracles we've had, don't tell anybody yet. Well, word has spread, especially with 2,000 pigs drowning themselves. You can't really hide from that anymore. So he's saying, go and tell people, go and tell your family about what I've done for you. And so he goes to the 10 towns, which was also called Decapolis. So that's another way to call 10 towns. So it would have been a big gathering of towns. And he began telling people, everybody that he could see, he began telling people what had happened. And it says people were amazed at what he told them. And to me, I think of that should be our response. We have the two responses to Jesus here. We have the response of being afraid and the response of being amazed. And of course, our response should be that we're amazed, that when we should never be afraid of Jesus. There is nothing to be afraid of when it comes to him. But if you don't understand anything about Jesus, naturally you're going to be afraid because you don't know what to expect. You don't know anything about him, and it's all brand new. And a lot of times that makes us afraid. All right. One of the things that really sticks out to me in this passage is the power and the control that Jesus has over these demons. that the moment that the demons see Jesus, they know they're in trouble. They come to him and they start begging Jesus to spare them. That the moment that Jesus says, go into the pigs, they go into the pigs. He has such control over the spiritual realm, and it's very evident in this passage. And that brings me comfort. It absolutely brings me comfort, because I know that no matter what I'm going through, no matter how out of control it may seem, that Jesus is there, that he has conquered all of it, that God himself is much bigger than all of it, because he's already conquered it. He's conquered these demons, all these demons. Later on in the story, in the life of Jesus, we just celebrated his death and resurrection. He's conquered that. There's nothing that I should be afraid of. So hopefully that was encouraging to you. Maybe you learned something. If nothing else, you may not think of a herd of pigs the same again. But I want you to be challenged with the idea, or just to not be afraid. Don't be afraid of God. Don't be afraid of Jesus. And live your life in confidence, being confident, knowing that you've got God on your side, that there's nothing that you need to be afraid of. Let's pray. Father God, thanks for today and this chance again to look at a miracle, one of your many miracles that you performed. Help us, God, to not be afraid. Help us to live our lives in confidence, knowing that you are with us no matter what. Thank you for an entertaining story that we have, that we can read, that we can learn from, that we can be inspired by. We ask all this in your name, Jesus. Amen. All right. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.